Hey there guys, welcome back to Soarfly Concept Scenery. Today we're going to be looking at a bit of texturing in SketchUp, specifically how to texture, I would say perfectly, but that's quite far-fetched for this channel really. Not so much perfectly, but this will give you a basic idea of how to texture your models so they look good, essentially. So a bit of advanced texturing really. Bit of advanced texturing. Now we got here, it's a very basically made street sign model. You'll find these all over the UK, at the beginning of every single street. Yeah, in the country pretty much. Some of them have them on houses, but yeah. We're going to be doing this. It's not quite to scale, it's fairly long, etc. So there's a couple of ways to texture in SketchUp. You can project, you can just seamlessly tile, or you can make a small texture sheet and just hope it fits. There's another way of doing things, and that's a very basic form of UVW mapping. UVW mapping, if you don't know what it is, and I suggest you go ahead and get yourself slightly more advanced software than SketchUp, like 3ds Max or Gmax or something like that, and UVW mapping will become very common knowledge to you. So essentially, UVW mapping in SketchUp cannot be done. But at the same time, you can do a basic form of it. You can make UVs. Again, if you don't know what they are, get yourself a UVW mapping program and you'll find out what it is. But UVs essentially are the outlines of your shapes, which you can then export and then edit in Photoshop to your heart's content. So, what are we going to do with this? Well, we're going to pick out exactly what we want to put on this sign, and we're going to texture the entire model. So, first and foremost, we want to find out how big our front-facing sign is going to be. And we've got the size already in SketchUp, so let's have a look. It is 0.24 by 2.08. Now, it's quite a big size to work with, so what we want to do is say 240 by, so yep, 240 by 2000. 2080, yeah. So 240 by 2080, and that's our size in pixels. Now, if you get the right aspect ratio with pixels, you're going to get the right aspect ratio in the texture as well. So 240 by 2080. Go into Photoshop, click on New, height 240 by 2080. Okay. Now that should bring up a box which is roughly the same size. Looks good to me. So we can now add this to a full flight sim texture. Now, as long as you have the right aspect ratio, that's the only reason why I used the pixels to begin with. So if we just say 1024 by 1024, that'll do. That's another canvas. Let's bring that into there. We don't need that open anymore. Okay, now it's going to be quite big at first, so let's just resize it until we're happy. Just zoom in a bit. Let's go like that. Go a bit more. Just so we can just get to the edge nicely. There we go. Oh god, what did I press? Enter. Alright, there we go. That's fine. I think I pressed delete. Okay, so let's go adjustments. Let's make it slightly darker so we can see the contrast. There we go. Now, if we were to go ahead and texture that with this now, we'll have a grey face. Because I scaled it uniformly, uniform? Scale uniformly? Uniform? Whatever it is. Because I did the uniform scale on this particular shape in Photoshop, it maintains aspect ratio, which is fine. So what we want to do is we want to now get some text on there, so let's just switch the color to black, and we'll just say street sign. Okay, you might want to change the font a little bit, I don't really care. Let's bring that to auto, doesn't matter. Let's change that to there, and what we'll do is we'll just scale it up in our own little way, hold down shift for uniform, and we'll just put it in the middle, roughly. There we go, street sign, bring it up a little bit. Okay, that's fine. Now, in some streets you have little icons at the ends and things like that. It doesn't matter to me about this particular sign because I'm just doing this to show you. So we can now say select the image, and we can add some shading on there if we wanted. So just use a nice dark color and pop a little bit across the top. And say a bit of a smaller brush, just go along the bottom like that, and around the edge. Around the edge. Okay, we can now add some wear and tear on there by using a fairly large brush, low opacity, and just go a bit nuts. Now for the actual lettering itself, we can Control and D to deselect. Let's rasterize the layer, and we'll get our eraser tool, lower the opacity down a little bit, and just do a bit of wavering on the sign. Now you don't have to do this, I'm just doing it to show you. Say street sign, and now put a little border around the edge, I suppose, using the brush again. Bring the opacity up a little bit. And let's make a new layer. Now I tend to do my shading on a separate layer just to have more control over it. Of course, if you want to do it on the same layer, you can. I'm not stopping you. Let's do that. Control-Shift-D. Just reselect that. Go. Oh God, what have I done? What have I done? Oh, I'm saving it. Okay, none of that. Right, just go back on the brush. Along the bottom, and up the side, down the side, and the bottom. Okay, now we Control-Shift and I. Just get rid of the stuff we don't need. There we go. So that could be our street sign. If you're not happy with it, you can add more. So let's say, we want to add a small bevel to the sign itself. So let's go like that. Go into bevel. We'll say pillow emboss. Why not? Yeah, that looks fine. Yep, that'll do me. So we'll just save that. I like to save as TIFF recently. It's a lot easier than saving as PNG or whatnot because they sort of hold their transparency better. So let's just call it street sign. Now the good thing about saving as TIFFs as well, they save as editable meshes. They save as editable images. So if you bring them into Photoshop, you'll have all of these layers still, so you can still turn them off or turn them on, edit them in any way you like. Right. So now we've got that. Let's go back onto here and find our street sign image. Computer's running a little bit slowly today. I'm not too sure what's wrong with it. Let's go down, there we go, into there, and it's called street sign. Okay. So, 2x2, that'll do. Right, now, we'll just paste the texture on there, and we can then position the corner pin there, and if we then move this corner pin up to the top, that'll be the perfect size. There we have it. One street sign textured. Now we can do the sides and the back as well. So for the back, we're just going to want the same size, only it's going to be a little bit darker, probably not the same material as the front. And of course we want to texture the sides here, and the underside, top side, and the legs as well. So the legs doesn't really matter too much because all we need to do is get a texture that's fairly dark at the top, gets lighter, and then dark at the bottom. So the sides, let's work on this. How big are we? Because this can just be a seamless texture. It's 0.03. So if we just go into here, again, it can just be a seamless texture for this sort of thing, so we don't need to worry too much about the size. But if we make it fairly large, we can then use, obviously, it'll be better for us. So let's start off by coloring it in. Let's just choose something to pattern it with. Thinking metal or something like that. Yeah, that'll do. And we'll convert Smart Object Rasterize Layer to Image Adjustments, and we're going to go for Variations. Make it a bit lighter. Okay. Now if we just select both sides of this and Control Shift and I to invert the selection, we can then add some shading. So it can be the same as we did last time. We'll just pop some shading in there. Like that. Right. Now, we'll just move our layers up so they join on. Now for our legs, we want to make another one of them as well, just for the underside. So let's go back into Photoshop, and we'll just grab both of these. We'll duplicate them, bring them down to there. That's fine. Just go Image Adjustments, Variations. Now normally I wouldn't texture the underside of things because you're not going to see them, but yeah, why not in this case? Just make it as dark as you need to. Probably play around with the saturation a bit. Yeah, that looks good to me. So that's the underside. Now for the legs. Let's have a look. So because our legs are a particular size, we can just use a seamless texture to texture them. So let's look at the things for that. 0.06, so let's say 60 by 73. So 60 by 73. So 60 by 730. And Photoshop, new width is 60 by 7. Oops, it's not 7. 730. There we go. Same as we did last time. Just pop that layer into there. Don't need it anymore. Let's go to adjustments, hue saturation, darken it down a little bit so we can see it. Now once again, this is going to be exactly the right size, so we want to scale it up to there. Okay, we'll select it, move the layer up a bit, there we go. And we're just going to use our brush tool like we did before on a low opacity setting. We're going to make it fairly dark at the top to about halfway down, then we're just going to get lighter. And we're going to make it fairly dark at the bottom as well. So lower the size of the brush. There we go. So let's save that. Oops, we can just control an S for that one, can't we? Right, if we bring the texture back in just by hitting that button and pressing enter, we've got the same thing, only it's now got more sides. Obviously you need to make a back face to this, but let's have a look. Okay, if we want to go like that, zoom in, texture position. Now you might want to zoom out a little bit just to reset it. There we go. Just put the corner pin there. Go up like that. Now you don't have to be too perfect straight away. Obviously you can find your niche. Ah, there we go. Look at that. That's very nice. Maybe a bit smaller, a bit bigger even. Go like that. And into there, into there. Yep. Alright, that'll do me for now, really. So, yeah, we'll just follow that round. Into that. Now around to the side again. Oops. Go underneath. So the one with underneath, what we can do is we'll just actually move the texture, because we already know it's the right size, so we'll just go like that. Okay, now for the legs. Now I've made these legs groups, so we can just go ahead and do one, like that, like that, and then like that. I'll move this out of the way. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to project a texture onto them. So let's get that back in there. Just click on it normally so it fills it as it would. Reset position. Get the corner pin, and it needs to be the other way around, so you get the corner pin to there. Should be exactly the right size. You may notice the texture's all stretch and skew, but it doesn't matter too much. Right, that'll be fine. Right, now we just right click, texture, projected, and we'll use the little dropper tool. Like that. Click on there, and there we go. Right, that's one leg painted. What we'll do is we'll just delete this one, and we'll move this one over. Okay, it's starting to take shape nicely, that is. So, the back face, well, it's just going to be as simple as this, really. Find our original texture. There they are. Let's use them. That. Let's move it down. Now again, the back face is probably going to be a bit darker, so let's just go onto there. Midtones, drop it down. Right, that'll do. Save. Now, you may hear me saying that'll do. Never say that if you're going to be doing this sort of stuff, because the word that'll do mean it's not good enough. But for me, that'll do. So let's just use the front texture there, put it on the back. And what we can do is just line up the corner pins again. Up we go. Now hold down Shift if you want to move the texture faster. I'm just pressing the arrow keys at the moment. Perfect. Okay, so let's go like that. And we'll just project the same texture across the top. Now these poles, I will admit, are normally black, but I just put shading on them so you can see what I mean. So that right there is your basics of UV mapping in SketchUp. It can be a little bit time consuming depending on how many shapes and sizes you have in your buildings or whatever it is you're texturing, but that is actually a fairly sound and tested method to texture in SketchUp. Like, if you do need to texture something, and you need it to have shading in specific places and things like that, I would recommend using this little technique. It does have its flaws and things like that. For example, if the edge is curved, you may need to project the texture, and of course there's always going to be a little bit of tolerance here and there. But yeah, I mean, if you map your texture slightly larger than the area you want to actually fill, it should be fine. But for sort of precision texturing like this, yeah, it's pretty much flawless. I'll give you an idea of something that I've done in this particular way. Yeah, so we're not going to save it, doesn't matter. So this is just a simple gate sign which I've used this technique for texturing on. There's a little light there. But as you can see, the whole thing has sort of shading in specific places like this. It's got your sort of dark edges and things like that. Now, of course, like I said, there are some downsides to using this technique. One of the main downsides is if you are going to be texturing like big areas or things like that, then the texture that you're using may as well be seamless. If, like, depending on how big the area is, you might as well make a seamless texture. Otherwise, the texture is going to have to be massive to hold its sort of what's the word I'm looking for? To hold its quality. Yeah. However, this not too bad for something fairly small. I would recommend using that technique, especially if it's going to be small. Like, the more detail you can get into a small object, the better things look, but the more detail you can get into a large object, obviously, it goes without saying. Anyway, that's how you texture specifically in, nearly said Model Converter X, in SketchUp. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. My name is Mark from Soarfly Concepts. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!